Hey guys, welcome to the homework number 6 front side video. Just a reminder that you guys have a quiz tomorrow, the 25th of September. So this is a really good way to review for the geometric sequences part. So congrats for being here with me right now. So let's get started with number 29. So we have find the common ratio. So first step, find the common ratio and the 3 terms in the sequence after the last one given. So we're looking for the next 3 terms. So looking at this, again, I can find my common ratio by taking the second term, which is -8, divided by the first term, which is -2. That gives me a common ratio of 4. So a common ratio of 4. Looking through that, if we multiply each one by 4, if we want to look at it instead to see what we multiply by 4 each time, that's another perfectly good way of looking at it. You don't have to solve it that way if you don't want to. So looking at the next 3 terms in the sequence, you can use a formula if you wanted to. The other thing you could possibly do is just multiply the next term by 4 again, right? So we have -2 times 4 gives us -8. -8 times 4 gives us -32. -32 times 4 gives us -128. I'm going to write out 3 more spaces because I think by now we should see a trend. If we take -128 times 4, that gives us -512. I'm going to write them below too. So here we have -512. -512 times 4 gives me -2048. I asked a lot of you if you had played that game last class, back when that was popular, but apparently not, which makes me super old. Not that that's surprising. We have -2048 times 4, and that gives me -8192. So these are the next 3 terms. If you wanted to use the formula, we know that this is the 5th term, the 6th term, and the 7th term, so you could solve it that way. I think it's a lot easier to just multiply by 4 each time, and that way you just get the next 3 terms in your answer. So we're lucky that we are asked for the next 3 instead of like 3 ones way out there, because we don't have to use the formula at all. Looking at the next one, the first thing I notice is that it's the same absolute value of numbers, right? So we still see 2 and an 8, 32, -128, but instead I see that my signs are switching each time. So it goes from 2 to -8 to 32 to -128. So that lets me know that my common ratio here is going to be -4. Again, to double check that, I could take -8 divided by 2. That gives me -4. That's how I know it's my common ratio. But also we know that if we're multiplying by a negative, the sign's going to switch every time, right? Because a negative times a negative is a positive times a negative is a negative. So that's how we see the sign moving back and forth, just as a way to check it logically. So once again, I'm looking for the next 3 terms. So I'm going to draw out my 3 blanks, and I'm going to multiply by -4. So we have -128 times -4. That's going to give me a +512. Again, these are the same numbers, so I'm not even going to put in my calculator. I just know that my sign is going to switch. So if we take 512 times a -4, that's going to give me a -2048. And the next one, we know that the value is going to be 8,192 because we see the same. But we're taking a -2048 times a -4, so I know I'm going to have a positive value here. So we end on the positive value of 8,192. Again, if you have any questions about that, you can come ask me or Ms. Avera. But for now, we are moving on to this next section. So we have find the common ratio, that's part 1, and the term named in the problem. So I got a lot of really good questions last class about what this A9 equals. So this is the same thing as U9. In U9, if we're looking back at the top to our formula, this is the term we're looking for, remember? So if we're the term we're looking for, so if it says something like U9, that means we're looking for the 9th term, which means that n would equal 9, right? Because that's my term number. So that's kind of a good way to think about it. So here, A9 just means we're looking for the 9th term. So if I'm starting here, I know for my formula, I'm going to need my first term, which is 4, my common ratio, which I'll calculate in a second, and my n is going to be 9 because I'm looking for the 9th term. Looking at the common ratio, I can just kind of see that we're multiplying by 3 each time, but if I wanted to check, I could say 12 divided by 4 is 3, so my common ratio is 3. So we answered part 1 of the question, right, because we found our common ratio of 3. And now I'm looking for the term name. So using my formula, I'm looking for the 9th term, which equals the first term times my common ratio to the n minus 1 power. So I'm going to do 4 times 3 to the 8th power. And that gives me an answer of 26,244. Now let's look at this next one. So we have find a 12. Once again, that's the same thing as U12. So I know that my n is going to be 12 because I'm looking for the 12th term, and that is term number 12. So I'm looking for the value of the 12th term. I know that that means that the term number is 12. My first term is going to be negative 2. And my common ratio, if I'm looking at this, I see that it's going to be times negative 3. I know it's going to be times a negative because the sign keeps switching, and then 6 divided by a negative 2 is a negative 3 as well. So my common ratio is negative 3. I'm going to box that because that's the first thing they ask me. Once again, I'm solving for the 12th term. So using my formula, I have the first term, which is negative 2, times my common ratio of negative 3 to the n minus 1, so 12 minus 1. Once again, it's really important here that you put your negatives inside parentheses because otherwise your calculator won't count your negative as part of the exponent and it'll get all funky. So we have negative 2 times negative 3 to the 12 minus 1, and that gives me 354,294. And that makes sense too, right? So back to thinking about the reasonableness of our answer, negative 3 to the 11th power is going to give me a negative because it's a negative number to the odd power. So I'm going to have a negative, and a negative times a negative 2 is going to give me a positive. So that's why I'm feeling pretty confident about my answer that it's going to be a positive number. Good, let's move on to the ACT questions. We're almost done, guys. So we have the first term in the geometric sequence below is negative 6. If it can be determined, what is the 6th term? So we have the first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, the 5th term. So the 6th term is just the next term. So as soon as I can find my common ratio, I can find the 6th term in like 2 seconds. So common ratio, 12 divided by a negative 6 is a negative 2. Again, I can see my sign changing, so that's good that I found a negative common ratio. So I'm going to take a negative 96 times a negative 2, which gives me a positive 192. So I know my answer choice is going to be F because we're taking a negative 96 times a negative 2, and that's what I get with 192. If I was thinking about this in a multiple choice test, I can see that a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, so I can immediately eliminate choices H and J, right? Because those are negatives, and I know I'm looking for a positive answer. Good. Let's look at number 50. So a geometric sequence is a sequence of numbers in which each term is multiplied by a constant to obtain the following term. We know that that constant is actually the common ratio. So what is the 4th term in the geometric sequence with first 3 terms, 4, 6, and 9? 1, 2, 3. So I know it goes 4, 6, 9. I'm looking for this one. So once again, once I find my common ratio, I'm going to be able to find the 4th term right away. So I have my common ratio is equal to 6 over 4. 6 divided by 4 gives me 3 over 2, which is the same thing as 1.5. So 4 times, I think this is one that would be good to check just because I don't super know off the top of my head the multiplicative relationship between 4, 6, and 9. So if I check, it'd be 4 times 1.5. That gives me 6. 6 times 1.5. That gives me 9. 9 times 1.5. That gives me 13.5, which is awesome because that's answer choice J. So we know that 13.5 is going to be answer choice J. Once again, if you have any questions about geometric sequences, let me or Miss Ava know. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Other than that, thanks for watching the video, and hold on just 1 second for the back side.